All right, let's get this out of the way first. This device is probably not going to be for most people. This computer is primarily for three places: family homes, student bedrooms, or the houses of bougie couples who like to decorate with expensive computing equipment. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so here's what you get. Of course, you get the 24-inch iMac in one of 7 colors, or 4 if you just go for the base model. I was pretty impressed at how light and easy it is to pick up and move around. It kind of looks like a giant iPad. The screen itself is gorgeous. It's 23.5 inches across with a resolution of 4.5K and support for HDR content. Beneath it hides a 6-speaker setup, which despite firing down out of the bottom of the screen, sounds absolutely incredible for their size and gives you pretty convincing surround sound if you're sitting right in front of it. Gotta be honest here, when I wasn't using this for work, I'd flip it around, jump on this couch, and use it for pretty much all of my video streaming. Okay, so maybe I worked like this more like 90% of the time. I'm writing the review like this right now. Yeah. But truly, you will not be disappointed with the screen and speakers on this thing. It's gorgeous and a pretty great alternative to a TV if you're living in a small space. Combine all of that with the stuff that records your end of the call, and you've got yourself a pretty perfect video conferencing device as well. For the first time ever in an iMac, the FaceTime camera resolution is a full HD 1080p, and it comes with all of the under-the-hood imaging stuff that you would find in stuff like the iPhone as well, which makes it look nice and crisp and keep my skin looking as beautiful as it does right now. As you can probably tell, the microphones are doing a really good job as well. Apple say they are the best microphones they've put in any iMac. We're actually going through yet another lockdown in Melbourne right now, so I've been spending a lot more time on video calls, and I've just basically turned this into my video conferencing device because it is just so easy to sit down in front of it and start chatting with people, and you know that the quality is going to be pretty decent. So yeah, I'm pretty keen on it for that sort of stuff. Delving deeper into the box, each iMac also comes with a wireless keyboard, a Magic Mouse, a lightning cable to charge the two, and the power brick, all of which will match the color of your computer. Exquisite. I got the mid-tier version to try out, so my iMac has the Ethernet port included in the power brick. If you go with the base version, you won't have an Ethernet port at all. If you've used a Mac in the past decade, you'll know exactly what to expect from the keyboard and mouse. They basically haven't changed at all. The only major update with this keyboard is the slightly rounded corners and the fingerprint sensor. The fingerprint sensor is a welcome addition on a desktop. I found it to be really responsive and a really cool touch. It also allows you to switch between users with the press of a finger, which is just perfect if this computer is used by multiple people in the same household. Or if you want different profiles for each of your fingers. The Magic Mouse is the same Magic Mouse Apple have been shipping out for years, complete with its low profile, uncomfortable shape, whose hand rests like this, and downright bizarre charging port placement. Overall, the peripherals are pretty basic, but they're perfectly fine for general everyday use. And the color matching does make this whole thing feel like a cohesive unit, which I really like. If you prefer comfort and function over matching looks though, there are better keyboard and mice out there. So maybe factor that into your budget if that is something you value. There is definitely a case for keeping all of this as a set though. This is one of those computers where looks really matter. The design combines the bold colors and white bezels of the old G3 Macs from the late 90s with the modern iMac's thin screen and aluminium body to create something that feels both new and familiar. The colors on the rear are striking and catch the light in a pretty spectacular fashion. It's a shame that for most users, this part of the computer will end up against a wall because as part of a bougie couple who like to decorate their house with expensive computing equipment, I proudly displayed the back of this thing in the center of my house and just found myself staring at it every time I saw it. The front is a bit of a different story. The faded pastel tones of the chin and the white bezels allow this computer to fade away when it's not in use, keeping the space it's occupying feeling light and clean. If you compare your color choice with your decor, like I accidentally did with this lamp, you can actually end up with a computer that enhances the ambience of the space it occupies, which is not something PC desktops typically do. The cool thing is, despite maybe not looking like an absolute pro device, the M1 iMac definitely can keep up with many professional setups. We're now on the second major release for the M1 chip, and what we're seeing out of this machine is pretty much what we got out of the M1 laptops and Mac Mini I reviewed earlier this year. It's an amazing machine that can run your everyday apps and tasks incredibly well, but also keeps up with high-performing PCs when you dabble in pro apps. Alex Kidman has run a few benchmark tests in his review of the computers over on the Finder website, so if you're keen to see a bit more about those, click the link in the description. I was also surprised to find the M1 chip is pretty capable of playing games. Of course, you've got all the Apple Arcade titles if you're subscribed, but we're also seeing quite a few popular titles get native support. The M1 chip is certainly not going to be replacing a PC with a dedicated graphics card anytime soon, so hardcore gamers are probably not going to find much to love here, but casual gaming fans, they'll love this. The M1 chip isn't magic, however. Because the M1 is a system on a chip, you get what you order and that's it. That's the chip. You will never be able to upgrade the internal parts of this computer. That's kind of the norm on laptops these days, but for something like a desktop computer, which sticks around for a bit longer, you'd kind of hope that you'd be able to upgrade at least a little bit, at least the RAM. Heck, you used to be able to do that in iMacs. See, there's all these little signposts that just kind of position this as a family desktop. Those users will be able to buy one of these and find that the M1 chip does everything they need for years to come. For the power user though, it's not quite customizable enough, and for hardcore gamers, it's just simply not going to keep up with the latest games. And there's one more thing that makes this computer a no-go for both of those crowds as well. Am I touching them? Yeah, I did. It's those pesky ports. I was pretty down on the MacBook Pro earlier this year when I reviewed it because it only has 2 Thunderbolt ports. This desktop only has 4 total, 2 of which are Thunderbolts. The other 2 are USB-C. The base model only comes with 2 Thunderbolts. Far out. Let's all calm down. It's frustrating, but I think it's okay. To touch on design one last time, I actually think this computer is at its best when it is devoid of any cables, except for the power of course, and you just have the 2 wireless peripherals. As a single colourful unit, it looks gorgeous and clean, and for some users, the ones who can realistically work from the cloud and with minimal peripherals most of the time, that's totally reasonable. That's how I eventually displayed this iMac in my house. I didn't even have the lightning cable attached to it, rather opting to charge my keyboard and mouse in the drawer. And yes, comments, I know I can just get a USB hub and be done with it, but it shouldn't need one, alright? This is an all-in-one. And ultimately, that is what this is for. It's an all-in-one that's bright and colourful and brings computing to people who don't necessarily need that computer to dominate their lives. It's for people who want to log on and call their families, use the internet, or do some homework and then put this away. It's an incredible family computer. And hey, if your family wants to dabble in video editing or pro gaming, it does a mighty fine job of that as well. For everyone else, unless you're absolutely in love with the look, there's probably something better out there for you. So that's the review. Gorgeous machine, but it's probably not going to be for everybody. If you're still in the market for an M1 desktop Mac, maybe consider subscribing because we can help you decide with our very next video, which is coming out very soon. We'll be discussing all the differences between the base model, the Mac Mini, and this one I have here, which is the more expensive iMac. Until then, I'll be resuming my lockdown position. Go Ted Lasso. Go. So wholesome.